How's everyone doing today? Hey, all right. What do you think of the video? You like it? It's pretty fun, huh? Well, the funny thing is, like, when we were doing that, we didn't think anything special about it. We didn't think we were doing anything unique or interesting at all.
Hello, and welcome to Blackjack BT. I'm Michael.
Thank you. Let's stop Mike. I'll let him run through as he's going. But anyway, before I get into the blackjack, I want to tell you a little bit about myself. Some of you may know me from this conference, or you certainly probably heard my story. Who saw the movie 21? Almost everyone. Okay. Who read the book Bring Down the House? A couple people. Everyone always watches the movie. The movie was interesting because it wasn't exactly what we did. We'll talk about that a little more later. When I graduated from MIT, I actually started playing blackjack right away, but that was kind of a side job originally. I actually have an engineering consulting company. We're about 15 people, and I have about 10 of whom or so have doctorates in either science or engineering. So we're very much a boutique company, kind of egg-heady firm. And what we do is develop technologies to destroy chemical weapons. The U.S. government and the U.K. government and Russia, Soviet Union, have chemical weapons stored all over the world. So what we do is we actually develop new technology to destroy them. And if you go to a site that has chemical weapons, you actually, when you go across the double fence line that has a sign that says guards will shoot to kill, you actually have to have a gas mask on your hip in case you're exposed to it. And you also have antidote. And did anyone see the movie The Rock? With Sean Connery and Nicolas Cage? That stuff that those terrorists were going to shoot into San Francisco is actually VX. And that's what we develop technologies to get rid of. And if you get exposed to VX, what happened in the movie, you don't go, that's not how it happens. But you do die a fast, painful death in about 5 minutes if you get one drop of this stuff on your skin. And it's one of the most lethal agents in the world. So if you're exposed to it, you actually pull out your antidote. You have about 5 minutes to do this or you'll die. And you pull it, and it's about a cartridge, maybe a little bit bigger than that. And inside it is a syringe, spring-loaded, about that big, thick gauge syringe. And what you do is you actually take it and you slam it into the meaty part of your thigh. And what that does is shoots the syringe out into your leg and gives you the antidote. And if that doesn't do it, you actually get to do it 2 more times to yourself. And if you still have symptoms of exposure after 3 shots, you're pretty much screwed because too much of the antidote can kill you as well. So it's really a fun place to work. But anyway, enough about that. You didn't come to hear about chemical weapons. Let's talk about blackjack. I got started on the team in 1993. And it's only fitting that MIT would be the kind of the birthplace of this big blackjack team because in 1959, an MIT professor at the time, Ed Thorpe. People know who Ed Thorpe is? You read his book, Beat the Dealer? Okay. Well, he had this idea that you could actually win at blackjack. Because blackjack is what's called, we call it a game of dependent events. What happens in one hand changes the odds for all future hands. They're all interdependent, so they're very dependent game. Versus roulette or craps. Every roll of the dice in craps are completely independent, right? Unless you're talking to a real gambler who would tell you can, do all kinds of stuff. I don't buy any of that. Every roll of the dice is independent. Every spin of the wheel in roulette is independent. But in blackjack, when the cards come out, what's been played, obviously you're never going to see them again. So if you can get some information from those cards, you can figure out how to do it. And Ed Thorpe had this idea that because it's a game of dependent events, that you could beat it. And he was right. And he actually was a little bit shunned, I guess, at the time by all these MIT professors who were doing really cool stuff with computers, conductors, semiconductors, the new things. MIT was kind of a cutting-edge place, and here this professor is trying to get supercomputer time to play cards. So he got the shift from 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. That's when he could actually go and use the supercomputers. And sure enough, he was right. He figured out that you could actually count cards. So, it's only fitting that, 30 years later, in 1992, a group of MIT students came together. And the first team was a limited partnership called Strategic Investments. That was actually the company legal entity called Strategic Investments. We called it SI for short. And it was founded by 3 guys who were about 10 years older than we were. And at the time, they were in their early 30s, John, JP, and Bill. And two of them were former MIT students. One of them was a former Harvard student. And they pooled together $1 million. And their business model was, hire MIT students, teach them to count cards, and then let them loose on the casinos. So what they did, they actually literally, you've been to college campuses where you see like a roommate wanted, pull a tab here. If you want to buy an old bike, you pull a tab. That's what they did. They postered MIT's hallways saying, if you want to play blackjack, come to this room at this time. So a buddy of mine, Mike, was one of the first guys on the team. He was playing for a while. And it was very secret, though. And he used to disappear. He was actually my housemate. And he used to disappear on weekends. And literally, I had no idea where he was going. But he would come back with wads of $100 bills. More money than I'd ever seen in my life. And a bottle of Dom Perignon. You know in the movie where the guy would just take everything in the room that wasn't fastened down, and he would always take like bottles of wine. That was actually based off of Mike. So he would always get a bottle of Dom Perignon. So I have to paint this picture for you. We're college kids. We absolutely no money at all. Maybe $500 to my name. So we're in this room where our coffee table was grandma's old table from like 30 years ago. We had literally cut the legs off it, so it was shorter, so it was like coffee table height. And our couch had about 5 rolls of duct tape holding it together. And then across our mantle, we had like 30 bottles of some of the most expensive champagne in the world. So it was kind of an interesting, and that was kind of the dichotomy that we were living, is high rollers on the weekend, but regular college kids during the week doing our homework and all kinds of stuff. Well, finally, Mike told me, he said, hey, I'm actually playing on a blackjack team. Are you interested? I didn't know anything about blackjack. The only thing I knew was Rain Man. Everyone saw the movie Rain Man, right? It was definitely not my underwear. That's about all I knew about blackjack. So, I said, what the heck? I'll go to a team meeting. It's better than doing my differential equations homework. A lot more fun. And right away, I learned a couple of things. And one is that what they were doing was not gambling. It was a mathematically proven way to beat the house. And also, I learned real quick that I'm going to go on some really, really fun trips. So, I said, all right, let's give it a shot. So my first trip was the Martinez character from the book. He was another housemate of mine. And the two of us went, and I was doing something for him called card eating, which doesn't matter what it is, but basically I was taking the bad cards for him. He was taking the good cards. And we were having trouble getting play. So we were at resorts in Atlantic City, and about a day had gone by, didn't get any play at all, and we were a couple hours before we had to catch our flight back to Boston. So we decided to try Trump Plaza real quick, maybe we'd get some action there. So we went down there, and in about an hour, we won $55,000. And I had never seen that much money in my life. So I was in, hook, line, and sinker. But I often wonder if we would have lost $55,000, I don't know that I would have played, because I learned later that even though at that time it wasn't our money, but when you lose $55,000 gambling in about an hour, your stomach is in a knot. It really does not feel good at all. Mathematically, you're gonna win it back, but it just does not feel good to lose that kind of money. But it's actually a common theme on the team. The guys who actually enjoyed it and stuck it out were people who won right away. You got that good feeling, and that feels really, really good. So we started playing, and we were doing a lot of gambling in Atlantic City, a lot of gambling in Las Vegas, and we kind of kept it secret. But everyone always asked me, well, what did your family, did you tell your family? And I eventually did tell my parents. My father was a University of Notre Dame engineering professor. So he was kind of interested by the whole, the math of it. So intellectually, he understood it and liked it. My mom was worried for me, as every good mom should be. Then my grandma, who, you have to know my grandma, she's about this tall, Italian lady, right off the boat. From Sicily, and the only thing she knows about Las Vegas is Bugsy Siegel and the mob, the mafia. So when she learned I was counting cards, her words to me, these are exact words, I can't make those. She said, honey, I love you, but make sure you don't get rubbed out. So that was my grandmother's advice. So.